Hey everyone, this is Elise from Lise Loves Paper, and today I'm here to share a flip through of my junk journal January journal. So first off, this is the first junk journal I have ever made. And I think it turned out pretty well. I'm pretty happy with it, as you'll see when we go through it. And second of all, before I did this challenge, I really had only done like 2 or 3 art journal pages, period. So what you'll see in here is a lot of experimentation, some things that maybe worked, some things that maybe didn't. You're not going to see a set style. It's going to be kind of all over the place because, I mean, that's what this is for. Experimentation is kind of how you find your style. So I hope you'll enjoy this flip through and go along with me and maybe see which things were successful and which ones weren't. So here's my cover. I quite like how this turned out. It's fun, it's simple. I love the little gold touch on there, and you'll see these little stickers throughout, and I will try and put a link to those in the description box below because you get a ton of these little girl stickers and they're just a whole bunch of fun. So the first prompt was resolutions, and so for this one, of course, my resolution for this year is to kind of focus on things that are important to me. And as you can see, I just kind of threw a whole bunch of stickers on there that kind of fell under what I was aiming to do with focus. So I quite enjoy how this one turned out. I love this little tag that I saved from Anthropology. I think it was for a pair of earrings. And then I like this on this side and how I kind of, it brought it together with the white splatters. You're going to see a lot of splatters because I like them. And then this little bit to kind of tie it together. So the second prompt was starry. When I made my junk journal, I had put in vellum. I'm not sure I will do that again because it's kind of tricky to work with. I'm really happy with how this page turned out. It's one of those techniques where you kind of like put paint, and in this case it was ink, all over it in little dashes and dots, and then you kind of stencil around it and color in the rest so that you see through it. Masking, I'm not sure what that's called. But I really like how this turned out in the bright and the black. And I really like how I brought the stars in over here with some cutouts all the way through. I'm not happy with my handwriting, but I'm still working on that, so it is what it is. And over here, the next one was stained. So I had seen somebody on Instagram who had done this, and I wish I could remember their name. I'll put it down below if I can find it. But I basically took acrylic ink and stained a page, ripped it up, glued it on here. And you'll also see I kind of went for a stained glass thing. That was my original idea, was to make this into a stained glass heart, but then it just got too tricky and difficult, and I was like, no, we're going to simplify this. And I really like how it turned out, because you can see I did ink staining on a piece of cardstock, and I did different dilutions of it. I don't know if you can see that, how there's some that are lighter and some that are darker. It was all the same ink. I just had watered some of it down and some of it's full strength. And then I had cut this heart from cardstock using a die cut. And then I just glued it onto a piece of vellum and glued the vellum onto that heart and cut it out. So you have this kind of stained glass inky heart thing, and I love how it turned out. And you'll see throughout that I kind of sometimes picked quotes to help bring the page together that used the keyword of the day. And so this is a nice little quote from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross about how people are like stained glass windows. This is probably one of my least favorite pages in the whole junk journal. It's not my colors. I'm not a green and orange person. The reason I went that direction though is because this page back behind here that I included in the junk journal had orange and green on it. So it's kind of trying to work with that and see where I could go with it. I do like this sari fabric. You'll see this throughout in different colors. And I had not painted this background. I had decided to just kind of leave it the way it is because I like the green with the white, and I thought it went really well with the green that was over here. But in practice, I just don't think that this stuff stands out quite enough. So yeah, not my favorite, but live and learn, right? So this one I think was routine. I really was not sure what to do with this one. I admit that I waited and waited and waited on this one to see on Instagram what people were doing with it and how they interpreted it before I did mine. And so what I ended up doing was just a very subtle take on routine. I had these strips that I threw in there, and I quite like how that turned out. Some of it's washi, some of it's, this is like a manufacturing strip, I believe, from, and as is this one, from scrapbook paper. And then I had a cardstock sticker sheet that had these days of the week pieces. I don't know if you can see, like there's the Monday one. And I kind of stuck them all in there all the way from Sunday through Saturday. And then I also added text in here, just very small text that included like some of my routines, my daily routines, like having my morning coffee, meeting the school bus every day, doing Zoomies. Our next door neighbor and our dog absolutely love to have Zoomies every day around the same time. So I think it was a fun way to do the prompt without it being like, woo, in your face with routine. So this next one, I believe, was stitched. So this one was a lot of fun. I took that Sorry ribbon again and I kind of stitched it down the side and wrinkled it up as I went along, so it has this great texture. And I left the long threads. That's not something I usually do, but I really like how it turned out in this one. And then I also had this like pocket, I guess, packaging of some sort. I can't remember what it was. And I stitched around the edge of that as well to make this little pocket on the page. I love the watercolor background here. Watercolors are a lot of fun, and they kind of drove the color scheme of this one. It's not my typical color scheme. I tend to like bright things, but I quite like how this one turned out. These flowers were a fun experiment. So I took a stamp and I colored it with the Stabilo 3-in-1 Woody, and then I kind of painted water over it and pressed it down. So that's what you see here, and it kind of made this like watercolor-y effect. And then I drew back over it a little bit, I think with a Stabilo All pencil. I believe that's what I used because I used it over here as well. And so that's what I did for these flowers here. But my favorite part is kind of what I stuck in this pocket. Are these just little things? But this one was actually from a candle that I got from Patty Wax. I love how it smells, and you can actually turn it around and sniff the back of it still, so it kind of adds this like extra dimension to it. So that's a lot of fun. So I like this page, even though it's not like a typical, what I would think of as me. This next one, I had a bit of a hard time with. It was shimmer, and I don't know if you can see the shimmer, but there is, I painted shimmer on all of the lemons. Let's see if they're showing. I'm not quite sure it's coming through, but every lemon has this like shimmer to it. And then I also included these like shimmery stickers. It was just kind of an experiment to see where I could go with this paint here, and it's okay. And then I was trying to bring in this side over here, and I tried a different hand lettering thing, When Life Gives You Lemons. Sorry, I'm trying to get the glare off of there. Keep them because, hey, free lemons. So you'll notice I tend to like to be a little bit silly and less serious with my quotes, but I kind of bounce back and forth. So that leads into this next one. I had a bit of trouble because I wanted the two pages that you could see to kind of talk to each other and not compete, which was kind of tricky given the backgrounds and the colors that I already had going on here. So you'll see what I did. This one was Blossom. The flowers, I used the same kind of colors that I had used the pinks and oranges over here to kind of hopefully bring that in here. This one was another fun but tricky one to make because these flowers here that you see are stamped on vellum, and they really didn't want to dry. So I flipped them over. I didn't want them to like, you know, get the ink on the other side of the page. So they're all flipped over. The ink's on the back side of them. And I stamped all of these and fussy cut them out and stuff. So I like how it turned out, but it was a long time to make this page. So next we have Hidden. I love the black and white in color here. This was the middle of my signature. So this background page was something I had done in an art class with making a color wheel with paint. And I really liked the color with the black and white. And to make it hidden, I added these. I had seen somebody, again, I can't remember who had made their own little like pie chart thing. And so I did the same with some scrapbook papers that I had. And I made it so that there's a hidden like brad back here, and it's pops open, and with the fun little quote, "Be a pop of color in a black and white world." So you can see my background page here when I was making the color wheel. But I really like this. I like the bright with the black and white in the background. It's just very me, it feels like. So my next one is intricate. Again, this is another one I really kind of struggled with. I didn't know what to do. I tend to lean towards simple, not intricate. So I went to Instagram again, and I had seen somebody else who had taken a coloring book page, like one of those adult coloring pages, and they used that because they have very intricate designs. And I was like, oh, that's a wonderful idea. And so I kind of, you know, borrowed that idea and did the same thing. There's a background page here, and then I had another page that I had kind of colored in on. I don't know if you can see it, but all these butterflies are glued on. They're not part of the original page. And I use watercolor again to kind of paint them and put them on there, and I quite like that with a little quote over here on vellum: "No one could suspect the intricate mysteries of her heart." So again, using the word in my quote. The next one was pocket, and this originally was its own page, but what I did was I glued it down to make a pocket, and then I stuck something in the pocket. So it was just a fun little tag. I like this better for the decorated tag than earlier in the book. Some more of those girls. It was just a fun little collage type thing to hide in the pocket. So that was that one. Now we're on to number 12, throwback. So do I have anybody out there, Spice Girl fans? I think a lot of people did throwback like way back, but for me, this was a lot of fun. The throwback to the 90s with a little bit of, here's the song lyrics, and I put some splatters. This, I had printed an image of the Spice Girls. I cut around it to kind of make my own stencil, and then colored it in on top of these like swashes of paint. I'm not sure I love the doodles. I tried to make like a 90s doodle thing in the corner to kind of bring the black up here, so it wasn't just heavy over here, and I added some more here. There are parts of this that I really like. There are parts of it that I would change if I did it again. And then I have a hidden little thing down here, which I thought was kind of funny. Again, me being cheeky. It says, "What in the world is zig-a-zig anyway?" If you know, tell me, please. So next one, 13, was hobbies. And I think we can probably all relate to this one. So for this, I said, buying, organizing, and using craft supplies are 3 completely different hobbies, and I am totally guilty of enjoying all 3. So I just kind of had fun with this one, and I really like the way it turned out, the colors that go across. This is tissue paper, and I had put down a piece of tape, double-sided tape, and kind of scrunched up the tissue paper for a bit of texture over here. And then I like this washi that kind of brings it all together. It's just a fun, lighthearted little page, and I quite enjoy it. So after hobbies, we're on number 14, from the day. Okay, so this one, again, not a favorite of mine. I think it could have been done a little bit better. I was trying to go for collage. And I'm new to collage, so I'm not sure it was the most successful. But what I did, my from the day things. So a lot of this magazine paper in the collage is from a watercolor magazine that I was reading in the text. You can see this is from the watercolor magazine. And then we had Chipotle. And so you can see some of the Chipotle bag back there. I quite like having that in there. And then I put a black cat on here because this day we were helping my brother move, and his cat Uma was there as well. So I thought she made a nice little focal point there. And I put here so I would remember, if I looked back on it, what happened to this day and why I included this stuff. And so you can see it's all M's I played around with. It says Moving Drew, Miss Uma, Mexican for lunch, and watercolor magazine. I was kind of trying to play with the M's there. The last one's a bit of a stretch, but you know, give it to me here. So that's that one. I'd like to work on collage a little bit more. I think I need some bigger elements, and that would help a lot. So moving on from this one from the day. Next one is barcode. I love this one. I absolutely love this one, and it has a fun little story with it too. So here, you can see it here. I love how it became graphic. So you can see I actually glued in some barcodes here from like some clothing. This is from, I think, a scrapbook, the manufacturing strip. A couple of those are. throughout. So, and this is from a receipt. And then I made them really graphic by using different thicknesses of pen and marker to kind of extend it here and there, and it went behind the people. So it looked like they were really embedded in here, and I absolutely love that. And the fun story with this is when I was working on this one, I had also been kind of going through some of my scrapbooking supplies and organizing them and stuff like that. And I had this piece here, I think it's from a Heidi Swap collection, sitting over on my desk to the side. And my daughter came by and she's like, "Ooh, what's that for? Are you using it for your thing?" I said, "No." And then I looked at it again and I was like, "Oh, well, that message kind of works with this, because what are barcodes if not all about buying and spending and stuff?" And this sentiment is the opposite of that. And so I thought that it kind of played really well together to be like, here's all the consumerist stuff, and then collect memories, not things, as a gentle reminder. So I quite like how that turned out, how it played together. I like the colors. It's just real fun page that I'm proud of. So the next one was folded. This was one of my pages. When I work on pages with paint like this one, I will put a piece of wax paper behind it so that I don't transfer paint. And this was one of them, and I quite liked the pattern that ended up on it after I painted. I don't know if you can see the detail there, but it's just fun. It's textured. Like here, I love the colors here. So I wanted to include that. So I threw that in here on the back of that page. That way you can't really see through it to this again. I'm not so sure that this side was as successful. I was trying to, tie the two together. Again, struggling with collage a little bit, but my folded part, what came to mind for me was origami. And so I had fun, so you can see this, using this coloring page paper again, and I folded this little origami box, and inside is a little secret. It says, "You are lovely," on that heart. So that's a fun little touch as you go through it. The next one was top 5. This one stumped me for a very long time. I struggled with it. I'm just not a top 5 kind of person. And so when I watched Meg's video from Meg Journals, the one who, if I have not said this already, kind of instigated this whole thing, she had, I think, done her top 5 washi tapes. And so I thought, that's a good idea. So I threw in my top 5 washi tapes for right now. And it's fun how it turned out. I kind of stamped the numbers, and then I used them as an element here and here as well to kind of tie the two pages together. So this was a quick and simple one. My next one was maps. I have this in here because it keeps sticking together. I really like how this one turned out. So I had this really strong pattern on this side, and this side was completely white. And so I really wanted to tie the two together somehow. And I was looking through what I had already for maps, and I had these washi tapes, and so they had the right colors, and I figured I could try this detail again going across the spine, and I really like how it does tie the two sides together. I also tried a stencil in here. I have this stencil from Tim Holtz in the background, which also reminded me of a map. In true junk journaling, this was just a tag that I had from something I bought at Home Goods. I can't remember what it was, but I liked the color with it, so I threw it on over here. And then here's another quote. I was looking for something related to travel and maps, and I just like how this flows and everything. So the next one was hand lettered, and as I said before, I do not love my handwriting. So rather than do the scripty brush lettering, I was trying something else, and I really like this, and I'm happy with it. So I just kind of colored on this side. I used gesso so that it wouldn't soak through as much, and then some watercolors, and I made this bright pow. It was a lot of fun. And then a hand lettered quote about using the whole box of crayons, which was a lot of fun. I did throw a little bit of white paint in the background of this one just so that the quote would stand out a lot more and it would relate to the white you see over here as well. So I think that was a really successful page, and I'm really happy with it. So after hand lettered was texture, and I'll tell you, I went a little crazy with this one, so bear with me. It takes over 2 spreads. So this is the first spread, and so you have the vellum texture here and a little bit with this like paper doily, and inside the pocket I had done this experiment where I took napkins and paper, and I don't know if you can see the texture, but I wrinkled them up as I glued them down, and so there's really great texture don't know if you can hear it as I run my fingers over it. So I really like how that turned out, and with the sorry ribbon on the side. I did not decorate this because I already liked the sentiment. This was a Carrie Bradford stamps bag, and it says happiness inside, which to me, how is that not happy, right? Then if you flip, we're continuing texture. I had this from forever ago when I was swatching some watercolors. It was just the paper towel that I was like dabbing off on, and I loved it. So you have this like paper towel texture. Then I added more of that tissue paper over here, and then a quote about touch, which I thought brought it together. So that's texture. The next one was experimental, and I decided to experiment with an art supply that I've had for a while and have not used, which was Jane Davenport's layer cake paints, which are kind of like a watercolor gouache kind of thing. I really like this side where I swatched them and then I kind of doodled on top and put some gold splatters. I did try and draw a person. I think my first mistake was that I put white acrylic paint behind instead of white gesso, and so it really had a hard time sticking and drying. As you can kind of probably see, it's a little patchy. The reason she has this barcode thing is because I really liked her, but I really messed up the eyes, so I just kind of threw that in there. We'll just not talk about that. And a quote here that I think really brought in the experimental spirit of this page, trying things to see if they work. So this worked, this didn't. Next one was old and new, and so for this one I had already in here this book page which was already old, and then this scrapbook page which was new, and so I kind of played with newer things and older looking things from my scrapbook stash, and I think it's really fun the way it kind of plays back and forth with the same colors, but you can tell that this is meant to be more antique-y and this is meant to be more modern, and there are touches that tie it together, like these hearts that you see, the craft hearts, and then I did a play. This one said hey hey hey, and then over here I put hello, and it felt very like new and old way of saying hi. So that one was kind of fun, and I really, this collage I'm feeling is a lot more successful than some previous ones I had. The next one was stickers. Don't love it. This collage not quite so successful. I was trying to do that layering thing that I see a lot of people do where they layer and then they put stamps and stuff on top, and I think there was just too much going on. I like this page, this side of the page a lot more than this side of the page. But I don't know if you can see, the stickers are like, this is stickers, and all these little flower guys are stickers. This text is stickers over here. So that was that one. Next is scenery. I love this one. It might be my favorite in the entire book. Let me scooch you back in frame. This was a Maggie Holmes scrapbook paper, and I really like how it comes out of the frame that I made. I made doodles around the frame, and then I took one of them and I lightly watercolored on this one to kind of colorize it so it stood out with another one of those little pretty paper clips. And then another quote here about kind of scenery or the view with some black splatters. I really, really, really like this one. So next one was one color. Teal's my favorite color, so I just went with what was easy for me. Threw some teal paint down, found some teal things in my scrapbook stash beside me, and kind of threw it together with a little bit of like gray and white to give it some breathing room. So that was my one color page. The next one was wordy, and when I got to this page in my junk journal, I was like, oh, it's already perfect. Look at all the words on it. But then I needed to do something else to it. So what I ended up doing was, since all this is like hello, love, hello, 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 I went for a quote that kind of tied that in there. So it says, the story of life is quicker than the blink of an eye. The story of love is hello, goodbye. And I tried my own hand lettering, a stab at it, and I'm not sure how successful it is, but I quite like it better than my actual handwriting. So it's a step in the right direction. The next one was earth tones. So these next two were really, really difficult for me before I flip it. I am not into the earth tones, if you can't tell already. I like bright, I like clean, I like crisp. So earth tones is not really in my wheelhouse. But I gave it a stab. Let me take this out. And this is what I ended up with. Maybe not necessarily all the way earth tones, but this peachy background I think works with it. I like that I put the text behind it. I brought in black and white to kind of ease me into earth tones because I like a good graphic black and white, and I thought that it played well with the other colors that I was playing with. And then I added these doodles here in crayon. I believe I have some Tim Holtz Distress Crayon in here and some Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2s. So that's why I have this in the middle so that it doesn't smudge back and forth. And then the next one was antique, also hard for me because I don't like antique-y stuff. So I found this picture in a Nat Geo, and it felt very, you know, a throwback there, but modern too. You can tell that they're current people, which spoke to me more than an actual antique of anything. And then I threw in a doily because to me that says antique. And if you can't tell, so these letters, they're very subtle, and I did that on purpose. They are actually the letters from here. I took what I could from this and spelled out some antique words that kind of express how I feel about this. Poppycock malarkey. I thought that was really fun. And then these little birds that I threw on there, not my circus, not my monkeys, let it go. I was trying to, I guess, talk to myself, just let it go. You tried it. It's not for you. Good job trying it. So that was my stab at antique. Only 3 left. So next we had musical. I found this and I loved that. And then I found this paper and I loved that. And I had a pocket and then I was kind of stuck. So I let it sit overnight. And then I came back to it and I was like, duh, it says musical. It doesn't have to be about music necessarily. And you've been listening to a musical this whole month on repeat. So why not make a nod to that, kind of a little cheeky nod. So I'm about to take a trip to New York and I'm going to see the Broadway show 6 and I'm super excited. I've been listening to music nonstop this whole month. And so I threw in a quote from one of the songs. And then on the inside here, I thought this was fun. On the inside the pocket, I did this little, sorry, trying to get it in frame for you. Just this little like collaged background. Again, I think I'm getting better at the collage. And then I included a QR code, and this actually will take you straight to the Spotify playlist for the whole 6 cast recording album. So I thought that was fun because if I look back through this later, it'll kind of remind me of where I was at that point in time. My next one was Unexpected, which I really didn't know what to do for Unexpected here, but I found a quote which worked with it. And I like this. I like keeping it simple. And I cut a hole in this knowing that the last one was closed. I don't know if you can see. And I had this piece of acetate left over. So I kind of stitched around the acetate. I did not stitch in the book. Sorry for the glare there. I just stitched on it and glued it in here instead. But I like this little bit of texture that it adds here. And that you can see through. It's kind of like a little window to the last page, which was close, meaning the end to me. And so I kind of played around with it. Again, this is more of that Maggie Holmes paper here. I have this girl and she's kind of staring at you and it goes along with this quote. It just reminded me a lot of one of my favorite bits from Ferris Bueller where he at the end says, "You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go." That's what it felt like to me at the end of this. This is the close of my journal. And so that's what we have here. I really like this one. I like the colors. I like how it talks together, the black and white. And then I had glued this in so I don't forget. This was already like this. This was in the paper. It was a jelly print that I had tried. And that's that. So she's a little bit thick. I love all these little bits. So thank you for coming along with me on this journey. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider liking the video. Leave me some comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you and bye.